houses and cars, and how in the world am I ever going to be like that? Or worse yet, whenever I become that good, I might have a business that big. And then we start trying to change our personality to become like this one. And I try to look older, and I try to look younger, and I try to, I just didn't know what to do, but we were desperately running around as members of the Method of the Month Club. And of course, one of the reasons for that is we didn't have any pattern in those early days. Nobody had ever heard of the concept of a duplicatable pattern that everyone believed in. And I maintain that one of the single most powerful reasons that Nancy and I did not grow is once we had been in long enough to believe that perhaps we really didn't have the magic that some people had, then we began to complicate the business to the point where we spent most of our time analyzing ourselves and became paralyzed by that analysis, rather than actually going out with an air of expectancy, with an excitement that you have when you're new, and say, hey, we're going to go to the top in this thing right away. We had lost that magic, we had lost that music, because we had lots of experiences to convince us that wasn't true. Not sure if there's anyone in this room that can relate to this, but I have a feeling there's one or two. Right? There's always one or two that understand what I'm talking about. Probably one or two that haven't had this experience. You think you're unique if you're suffering from this. Some of you maybe haven't even identified what you're suffering from. I really hadn't. In fact, I didn't identify part of what my problem was until we were already become successful. And I was able to look back and say, gee, I can really see where I really was making this business a very complicated mess. I was making it much harder than it really was. I was reading and studying and trying to figure out how to, dress for success, and I had to throw away the wrong colors and get this and that out. And I was really into all these things that really didn't matter. Now, what does that mean? What that means is no matter how great your patterns are, you don't make the difference. If your system is good and you're consistently sharing, it's who you find that makes the difference. And that's good news, because all that means is if you're really good at it, you'll probably be a little more efficient. But if you're really bad, you can get there anyway. You can get there anyway because you can just find some people that are really good. See? And that's kind of a message we like to kind of to spread, is to say, quit analyzing yourself to the point where you complicate the business. So, what Nancy and I did, and this is a couple little points I want to give to you. What Nancy and I did is we sat down about 7 years into the business, and as you heard us talk about last night, and that was we were given a tragedy in our life that knocked us off our feet so bad that we really had to take a whole different look at things. I mean, we were so financially devastated after those 2 years in the hospital and the 15 or 20 surgeries. We were in such desperate shape financially that we really had to sit down and take a serious look at what in the heck we were going to do. Because, we had to do something. We needed to really sit back and take a good hard look at what this thing was all about and get on with it and figure out how we could take it from where it was to a big business and solve our problem. Because the solution was there. Others were accomplishing it. We decided we could. And I remember a couple of things we did different. And that's what I want to spend a few minutes on this morning, and then turn it over to Nancy to kind of smooth out, because I'm going to talk to you about some fairly strong and concise concepts, and I'm going to leave out the sensitive areas of human relations a little more than I should, to try to leave you with a point or a thought that I think is important and that I learned from talking to groups all over the country seems to be a common problem, and that is people, by and large, the majority of people in an audience of this size are frustrated. 90% of you are frustrated. 90% of you are making this business harder than it really is. 90% of you are wondering why you're not further along. You're wondering why this and that doesn't happen. You're wondering why other people are doing this and you can't seem to do it. And you're really consumed by analyzing. And sometimes speakers like Nancy and I spend so much time talking about our techniques that we send people out of a seminar changing their techniques, looking for the secret. When all you really need to do is realize that you have the techniques. Perhaps you don't quite yet have your thinking squared around just the way it needs to be, so that you can take what you already know and make it work. And Nancy and I didn't do anything really a lot different. We just simplified it greatly and decided to believe in what we already knew. And one of the ways I can illustrate that before I get into it is to point out, let me do it this way. Let me suggest here that we're going to run a little contest, okay? And we're going to have a sponsoring contest, and you all know how powerful it is to get a new bunch of people in your business. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an hour from now. I'm going to spend the next hour discussing exactly how Nancy and I prospect, show the plan, how we draw the circles, how we follow up, how we close people, all that stuff that you really are always dying to know. How do I do that? Because you know that I've got some system you don't have, and that's why I'm a crown. I'm going to give you an hour on how we do that. I'm going to give you every approach I've ever learned, every approach I can think of from everybody in my group's ever learned. I'm going to give you all those techniques I can think of. I'm going to send you out of here sponsoring like crazy. Because that's what y'all came here to learn, is some more techniques on how to sponsor. Because you've tried the techniques you've heard, and they don't seem to be working the way they are supposed to work because the prospects don't know their lines. Right? They don't answer back like the manual says they're going to, and it confuses you. So you start, Now, oh, by the way, if you like that approach, that's great. And I don't know how many of you think you could, how many are sure you could sponsor 4 people this afternoon if I gave you a seminar on how to do it? Okay, probably not very many could do that. How many people are absolutely sure you can sponsor 1 person in the next hour if I gave you a seminar on how to approach? A few of you are pretty sure of that. Okay, probably more of you really would. You just won't raise your hands. Now, we're going to change the contest. Instead of doing that, I'm not going to give you any information at all. In fact, I'm just going to end the seminar right here. I'm not going to teach you anything at all. However, what I will do is for everyone who can sponsor 1 person in the next hour, I'll give you $1,000 in cash. How many can do it? Amazing! All your hands went up. Now, wait a minute. I thought you needed more information. I thought you came to Hawaii to learn how to do the business. How come for $1,000 you don't need to know anything more? You're just going to go get the job done. You know what? That's funny, isn't it? You remember that point the next time you tell your sponsor you need to know more of the secrets. I got news for you, folks. You know how to do the business. You just haven't decided yet that it's important enough to do that you're going to go get uncomfortable, because I got some more news for you. It isn't always comfortable to do these things in the early days when you're not sure yourself. But it gets comfortable. Just like playing the piano is a disaster when you start. But after 5 years of practice, you can do it and eat a peanut butter sandwich and watch TV and talk to your 5-year-old and still play Beethoven, because it's a natural thing. How about riding a bicycle? Anybody remember learning to ride a bike? Do you remember how you thought, how can anybody stand on those 2 wheels and ride down the street? It's ridiculous.